This is going to be the first of my DreadyVet discussions. The content of this particular discussion, one-to-one, is going to be really based upon current topics and things that I have wanted to discuss or things that people have suggested to me. So I would like to revisit, hopefully, something more personal. So this is really the perfect time for me to explore certain opportunities regarding video and connecting in YouTube and connecting with you guys. So as far as this goes, this is the tester. This is the pilot episode, as it were, to see if people appreciate the type of content that can come on having a direct discussion with a vet student, and also someone who generally, as we've seen in many times prior, a slightly different interpretation of some important current topics regarding the veterinary world. So let's get straight into it. As some of you may have seen that very, very recently I had this new DreadyVet debate, DreadyVet discussion topic, and I wanted people to live debate with me about a certain hot topic regarding animal welfare, the Yulin Dog Festival. Now, if anyone doesn't know what the Yulin Dog Festival is, a festival that's in Yulin, which is a province, I believe, in China. And this particular province has this festival where they consume dogs in this festival. Now, there are some Chinese animal welfare groups who have been trying to close this particular festival down. This particular festival has really garnered wider attention since there has been a particular petition aiming for the closure or to put external international pressure on this festival. The quality of animal welfare or lack of animal welfare has been quite shocking, atrocious, and there's been a lot of wider media attention because, as we've seen, now the Western world have seen there's a certain amount of interest behind it, that it's really become something of an international crisis, as it were, especially in North America, especially in Europe. There's been a huge amount of wider media attention. On further inspection, I wasn't particularly happy with some of the messages or lack of neutrality when it came to some of the ways to share the information of this particular festival now. And so I took it on myself to say I'm not going to sign it because there's certain underlying problems and features of this particular petition that I don't like or I don't want to be party of. So what I did was put on my page, DreadyVet live debate, why I won't be signing it, and invited people for the first time to discuss why they agreed, why they disagreed, and the response I got first and foremost was fantastic. It's really important that people get involved in these debates to not only challenge me and my opinions, because I'll be the first to say I know I'm not right with everything, but also to stretch their own interpretations and perspectives, because I often feel that from what I've seen in the veterinary world, there's a lot of hypocrisy and a lot of problems when it comes to using science or using animal welfare and not appreciating a more holistic, larger picture. So I invited people and I got a very good response. Many people disagreed and quite a few agreed with me on my interpretation. And I'll put a link below to the Facebook account to the particular post so you can dissect whether you agree or not. And what I found is that a very polar interpretation of how things were, and what people generally felt was that they didn't want to be removed from the argument because other people were hijacking their movement, for example. And my basis of my argument was that the Western world, whatever that is, or Europe and the North America, etc., we have certain standards in our interpretation of what is good animal welfare, and we love dogs and we love cats and we see them as domestic animals, and yet behind the scenes, from what I've seen very recently, we have poor standards. We do, and we have poor standards when it comes to animal welfare in many facets of our slaughterhouses, etc., etc. And what was frustrating to me was to see what I saw was a Western versus Eastern, and that's why I keep saying Western, a Western versus East interpretation of what was good standards and what was bad standards. If you can't follow your own advice, how can you have a moral distinction or have a moral compass which gives you the ability to dictate to others? And that was my main concern, and I didn't want to frustrate people. But what I was saying, as you see, it was going to be provocative, because it needed to be. It needed to have an element of saying, look guys, the large majority of the people that are signing this need to be able to dissect their own privileges. And it's true, we have a lot of privileges. We have a lot of privileges with being, to a certain extent, even as veterinary students, even as vets, even as medics, we have a lot of privileges about what we are insulated from. It's essential that we explore those privileges before we're able to dictate to others. And I spoke to people on Twitter, I spoke to people on Facebook, and I had people messaging me personally who knew me. And what I managed to realise is that a lot of people were very uncomfortable with the idea that this permeated deeper than animal welfare. And what I found worrying, actually, is that people were able to be very nonchalant about the undertones of racism, the undertones of some kind of privilege, the undertones of prejudice, and the undertones of discrimination, and all these areas which I feel are crucial to appreciate. By removing one ill of the world, animal welfare, and by disregarding that these are parts of other parts of discrimination, for example racism, for example culturalism, for example of speciesism, whatever it is, the idea that you can just say animal welfare, and it, in this particular case, it supersedes or has more value or has more priority over other parts of oppression, is baffling to me. Now, others obviously didn't feel that way. So it was a very good debate. I'll leave a link below, and you can dissect and see if you agree, if you disagree, and although that particular debate is closed, I'm very happy to say that everyone who got involved, I'm very pleased, and it was, I would regard it as a success, and I'm sure people found it very enlightening, because for once it wasn't one rule accepts all. And I have found that so many times when I'm writing articles, or when I'm discussing slaughter, or when I'm discussing feminism, or when I'm discussing anything that has a real part to play within veterinary debates, animal welfare, etc. There's almost this, well, the science is there, or we like animals, or we are part of animal welfare, and we are integral part of animal welfare. Therefore, that is the be-all and end-all, and I don't agree with that. It's very myopic. I will leave a link below, and by all means, please explore and discuss. I won't be discussing it anymore, unless there's something particularly interesting or a continuation of that particular debate. So yeah, well, that's going to be the first one. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and hopefully it wasn't too heavy. I'm hoping that I can make this interesting and inviting, and fingers crossed that you guys like it. So for now, ciao.